Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we're back to Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Have to kind of remind myself where I am, what I'm doing. Oh yeah, we were doing what looks like a main story quest. Yeah, according to the map legend. Yeah, of Icarus being missing, which really doesn't feel like it's that connected to the rest of the main story quest of Dogen and the Benefactor and Kruger sect yet, but it must integrate in some way. Clearly, Icarus is an important character. He's obviously, the way he's been introduced, implied to be more important than Plastic or any of the other characters that we met after Icarus. Icarus has dropped off the beat and Noah's worried. Noah is probably pretty important too, but he's probably not that important. I feel like all these older characters, while it is nice to see them around, and that is something that was missing in the first game because there was this whole implication that there was this group of runners and this whole society of runners or cabal of runners, and you really only see two or three of them in the original game. Now, if this game is supposed to be a soft prequel to the original Mirror's Edge, then maybe some things would get explained as to why there was fewer people or fewer runners around at that point, because there basically aren't any runners around at the end of the original game. Uh, so we're gonna look for Icarus though the guy is too full of himself, he's also a fellow runner. Of course, you'll go look for him. Maybe you'll even help him if needed.
No, I just talked to Icarus. I think he's nearby.
Okay, good. He's alive. That's a relief. Thanks for the update.
So, we've moved the crane here, which makes it feel like now we can reach an area that we couldn't have reached before. Although that's probably not really true, because you see there's a bridge here, obviously. So, that there was a way to reach this section. It's not as efficient as this direction. Now, you have something above your head here. You probably would have noticed, wouldn't have noticed at this point, the idea that you've been free to jump pretty much everywhere in this game. Maybe with the slight exception of being in a hallway, but even most hallways are high enough where you could get some air and jump. So that felt very awkward to be constrained into such a small area. Or a low overhead area. We're back to like a construction section, and we could take it slow and look for collectibles, but honestly right now it doesn't look like there are any collectibles that are going to show, as far as grid leaks at least. We probably have just been in this area before. Like, it's very easy to potentially have the player come from a different angle in a different direction and make the maps look a little different. Right. So he is just
Never thought I'd say
in an
this,
electrified
but
area.
Sure are a sight for sore eyes, Faith.
What happened here?
Don't ask. And stay away from the fence. It packs quite a punch. You don't want to end up like those guys.
What do you need from me?
Help getting out.
See,
of here.
and he pointed to these
Shutting down
rats.
electricity should do it.
Or I just leave you for Kruger sect to find.
Or that. Though I'd prefer my suggestion. Please.
What do I do?
Those cables should lead you to the switch. I'll owe you one.
Sure. Don't go anywhere.
Funny.
Interesting that they're moving the camera there, so they're showing that you can move the camera, and they've just failed to do it in so many of the other cutscenes.
Those cables.
It's weird. We haven't seen rats before. They should have been running around as much as we've seen some pigeons run around. It is also kind of weird. It feels like the idea of electrified panels should have been a thing always. Like, and so I'm hoping after this mission, we'll start to see that there are yellow panels everywhere, and those are indications of
I think the current is somehow. First time that's happened. No access or long-range comms.
yeah. If we start seeing power switches that open up other paths, and then there's entire second passageways one can take, here's an interesting just group of people. Once again, I think just not there for flavor, which is fine.
Nothing like it, but I can sort of understand what prison must be like now.
So I guess that's what I was supposed to do. Runner's vision is offline.
Seems a bit stingy lately. I guess it's that whole black.
I don't know if I was supposed to go that way, though.
I actually did a few runs for Black November before I joined up with Noah. Courier stuff mostly. Rebecca thing can be intimidating, but she paid well.
Yeah. So I just boned that up, pretty much, and I'm gonna have to start all over again. Because we're going down. We're not going up. So I was supposed to jump here, hit this, slide down this way, and then jump on this one. Even if it was a case that we start to see these power grids turning off your runner's vision, and thus that's the point where you're going to have to follow these down to circuit breakers, or follow them to circuit breakers, maybe not always down on the ground. That would be different gameplay. Yeah, but I can see there is a collectible down there, which definitely does make it feel like we are going straight down the street level. That is weird. Alright, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to pause this recording and take a quick break. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Let's continue. So, it oddly does just kind of feel like, though, that we're going to get to a small ground section, and that's it. It's not... I really don't feel like what's going to happen here is that we're opening up the possibilities of there being ground sections in the city that we could cross and interact with throughout the entire map. It would be really cool if that was the case, but you probably need some other kind of mechanic or something to then stop the player from just deciding that they want to walk on the street from point A to point B. You would have to have it so that you just are physically disallowed from walking across roads. These are all labeled as Kruger-Sec doors, so you almost have to assume that they're just security employees living here or working here in this building. Unless, of course, this is that theoretical jail that I wouldn't be surprised if there were points where we finally find out that, yeah, people are just getting locked behind doors. Interesting, you have like little Wi-Fi access points and smoke detectors. Very standard modern technology. Light switches. These doors do have like card slots on them, and the locked staircases seem a little out of place. They are in part both labeled as Kruger-Sec and Callahan in the whole conglomerate situation. And then here you just have an odd collection of garbage, as if somebody was just throwing garbage out their window, which I don't even see a way that you could have done that. Yeah, what I would suspect, though, really is going to happen is that there will probably just be a fence here, a fence over there, a fence over here, a fence over here, and that'll be the entirety of this ground region. Yeah,
Found
and
it,
if anything,
but I have to find a way around.
it does seem like
You're still an
It's-
idiot.
yep. This definitely feels like an experiment. Pigeon's not really doing anything or meaning anything. I guess that's the way we are supposed to go, so we should look around. We did see Icarus spray painting, and we can see some more spray paint here, but you kind of also are just being reminded that the vast majority of the world doesn't have spray painting on it. Or if there is spray painting, it's digital spray painting. Feels like there might be a delivery or a dash that ends up down here again. And then you have just a person in a suit who you potentially deliver something to. And then outside this wall, you can see more just normal people walking around. Yeah. Seems like we could pull ourselves up that direction. Not really a lot in this building. Just run around to have a wall. There is something up here I want to grab before we move forward, because I suspect what's going to happen here is we will be chased out of this whole section, and decent chance that we never are going to come back this way. You can't go any further in this direction. Feels like there should be something special here, but I don't know what it would be. It almost feel like this should be a safe haven, or this should be a gathering point, or this should be a place where you have to go to potentially upgrade and use your upgrade points. Something like that. And I guess they are going to use the rats as potentially a distraction. Of course, this may also be foreshadowing. We're seeing rats while doing a mission with Icarus. Is Icarus going to turn out to be a rat? There's just nothing here. And I guess I'm glad there aren't anything like that. There could be a grid leak there when we're not in this mission, which does make the argument that you might have to come back down here and look for grid leaks. And if there was a whole bunch of ground levels like this and there were collectibles, because of that would create a nightmare scenario.
Whoa, there's a crap load of details coming in from Krugersec HQ. Probably some crackdown Black November.
So maybe this is a thing where I'm going to end up in the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe this is just a different way in which they're going to once again show stories or just have me conveniently around in the place where major stories happen, because there really was no good reason for me to be able to even be near or see the explosion of the mall from Black November. Of course, the other thing is we could find out that these electricity pipes are using a ton of electricity because of Project Reflection, and we'll get some surprise reveal about Project Reflection using a ton of power and doing something nefarious. It is an interesting thought, certainly, when you start to think about the logistics of building tall buildings, tall towers like this, into the idea of where you would want to put your electricity. It makes a lot of sense to pump up water after about the 4th floor to the top of buildings. That's usually how the city pressure goes, is that there's enough water pressure to get water to the 4th floor, but after that you have to have a pump inside to put it into a water tank to then use gravity to feed water downward. Of course, that's just cold water. If you're using hot water, you then have to have water heaters also play a role in that. But electricity could be buried underground, and it kind of makes a lot of sense if you have to have transformers and generators to bury everything underground. But if then there's flooding, then all that equipment is going to be ruined. Depends on how often it floods in your area, whether you want to do that. Or you could try to put electricity somewhere higher, as far as a city block grid transformer. But the transformers are so incredibly heavy, I think most of them would be underground. Of course, in a futuristic world, you would kind of assume electricity equipment is lighter, smaller, more efficient, if there's a way to be lighter, smaller, more efficient, and still satisfy those needs. Like, that's pretty much what I assume these are supposed to be, is slightly futuristic transformers on ground level. Not underground, but on ground level. I imagine still very heavy for their size. Gas can just be pumped pretty much anywhere you want because it's under a pressure. I don't think there's even a case where if you were getting natural gas or propane delivered by a city, you would have to install much of a pump to get it up to the top of a building or tower. You certainly could do that. So it looks like we may run through here and everything's said and done, and we're going to set off like a security alarm probably, and this is just going to start a whole new section of interaction. It's just a generic switch, not even locked.
Done. You owe me one.
I do. Thanks.
Interesting.
Looking for an easy way back up.
I just
Maybe
did
there's an
this
elevator somewhere.
and still missed. It's pretty unrealistic to have a pipe, a water pipe inside of a elevator well, but it's not completely unbelievable. I assume these big pipes that I'm climbing are water pipes. I wasn't really planning on going inside the elevator, but I guess that was the right move. So I guess we'll get to see the hair glitch once again when we hit the button. Let's see if this works ever. Because it moved you into a specific spot. It moved your camera to a specific spot. So it should know that's going to happen.
Good to hear it. Come back here, Paul.
Noah?
Faith.
Look, her lips don't move when she's talking.
We're being raided.
Noah! Say something!
Interesting.
Jamming us. We have to go back, Faith. Meet you there.
Damn it! Go faster!
So, why have reflections if you knew there was going to be a scene like that? Why not play that audio now?
Noah, hang in there. We're coming.
What are you supposed to do? These are runners, though, not fighters. I'm gonna arrive and then what? Beat them up? If the entirety of the layers group of people can't take them on, then what am I supposed to do as just one person? Unless I was the only person that knew Kung Fu and could beat up people. It's definitely a very passionate thought here that you're doing, not a logical thought. I guess there are some spray painted sections in this small area, but again, nothing. Seems like everything's damaged and hurt. People are beat up and yet not captured. This definitely makes it feel like Icarus was a bad guy.
I'm nearby. Still several VTOLs hovering about. The beat is quiet. Too quiet.
Yep. Everything's all broken up.
Everyone's gone.
That would have been the plan.
Outside. Faith. I see body bags.
So they killed him, just like in the first game. And yet, the collectibles for doing things are still here. Because they're just programmed to spawn once you've done something.
You there, Icarus?
I see it. K-Sec bastards. What do we
Is that her
We have to
mother?
stop them.
I'm there.
I half suspect that either her mother or father or both are actually bad guys being forced to work for Kruger or actively working for Kruger. Alright, so now we have a completely different experience that you have to, like, mention. Certainly was the case in the first game also, is that you got put into an area like this, and once you were in an area like this, there was just a lot of bad guys and a lot of stuff that you kind of had to work on. It's not like you can just build up that shield a ton. That is kind of what it feels like they want you to do, is to run around and build up your shield. Yeah. Just slide and kick as much as possible. I don't think I've actively been able to use that move once correctly. So, like, somebody is up here in the air and they're still in the helicopters. Is there something I'm supposed to be doing with the helicopters? Or am I supposed to just be, like, proving that I'm actually capable enough to take out 10 or 12 people while they're shooting at me with real guns, not just disruptors? You can definitely feel that there was a idea here, certainly, around introducing the disruptors early, because they've worked out so many of the other sections in which you probably would have, storyline wise, run into bad guys. Yeah, nothing I do though is going to be good enough. Like, and doing the slide attack still makes way more sense because it lets you stay outside of the range of these people. Let's jump. Did I get him? No. Yeah, that was just way too much, and then immediately my health gets refilled at the end of that, and that's the only time it seems like your health gets refilled. But you can definitely tell that there was very little effort into polish these fight sequences better. So they've instead just said, hey, let's refill your health, let's remove a lot of sequences. And I needed that practice, certainly. I needed 2 or 3 more fights before getting to this guy, because you can see my one gimmick here is not working particularly well. He is jumping all around, which means the slide kick move is not working. Alright. And the idea of potentially running around and regaining a shield is not realistic. We broke his helmet, which there's something to that. They needed to specifically say something along the lines of, you have a regenerating shield, and that regenerating shield takes some time to refill, so run around a little bit, as silly as it may seem. This is hardly the kind of conflict you really want to engage in. It is really ridiculous to have to potentially die here. Just frantically button mashing. And one would hope that this checkpoints you at the beginning of the conflict with the main guy and not having to take down the entire group of people first. And this potentially is going to create a nightmare scenario if all of a sudden in a post-game scenario you're having to fight these guys. Does his attack and his counterattack make sense? Or can I counter like his counterattack? Because this is like, I have 4 hits in me and he has at least 20 hits in him. So like, trying to do a fast attack does not seem to work. Trying to potentially shift, like, I've never been able to get that shift quite right. I might as well just die. Unfortunately, it doesn't feel like it's going to get any easier either. If I've died 4 or 5 times, you'd half expect it to get easier, reduce his health, or straight up just ask, do you want to skip this fight? Here, this is a prime example of a difficulty spike in a game that could destroy some players actually making it to the end. And we constantly have a problem with gamers not having interest or time or energy, emotional energy or otherwise, around finishing games. Can I jump backwards? No. Can I shift out? No. Can I do anything with the right trigger? Like, See, that this is the whole problem, is that this, you have to pretty much, I think, have the cursor on the character before you can even start to think about shifting away from somebody. So I think the real way to do this is to literally just let the guy chase you. Do this, wait till he comes around, and then see if we can jump him, hit him once, maybe jump him, hit him twice, but probably even in that second shot, you'll fail, so you probably should just find a nice leap spot that you like, and then see if maybe you can find a point to jump on the guy. That's kind of all I think you can really do. Those just try and find a spot to gain a little bit of time, jump and maybe try and hit him there. But see, even if he gets that plug-in on you, he may knock you back 3 or 4 times in a stun lock situation. So you have to have 2 or 3 hits potentially saved, and the game only started you with 3 hits. This is an awful experience. An awful experience that was foreshadowed with the introduction of the disruptor characters, that noticeably we haven't actually seen them do anything. It's left stick, left or right, plus right stick. Its weakness, it says, is Y attacks. So, everybody's got one. And then I tried to dodge and that did nothing. And then now we're stun locked. Like, he just gets you in a wall, in a corner. Like, there's no programming here at all to back off when you are stuck in a corner or when he's already done some damage. And I totally would just go into an easy mode and skip this if I could. But I'm afraid what's going to happen is that we're going to find him actually turning out to be only the medium level of difficulty of what I expect to run into as far as enemies. Because you'd almost assume there would be at least 2 of these, or these would become normal characters that you just run into all the time. Yeah, let's see if we can do this. Nope, because he's not anywhere close to us. Right. And you just constantly get to about this point, and this is where I tend to die. And you can't make that jump. The level design is not helping, certainly. I could slide, but sliding would slow me down. So all you really can do is run. Ooh, I didn't realize you could get hurt that way. Alright. So 2 more strong hits. And still not enough. It's not unfair to say that a game like this needs you to feel cool and have that constant flow of success with very little failure to work. That is kind of the problem with Sonic games also. It's not actually that different from even the original Super Mario Brothers games too. As soon as you start struggling, as soon as you start dying, like it becomes a very different experience and a much worse experience.
I figured we could ask some questions. I don't know anything.
What did you do to our friends?
Our orders were to capture them, but they resisted.
What did you do?
We had to shoot. They wouldn't submit, especially the old guy.
Run, I'll meet you later.
So not a lot of information from that conversation. And apparently the drones are now capable of shooting at you.
Just don't get zapped.
It is a weird scenario, certainly, that you would have disruptors and electrical weapons and then still seemingly have bullets and guns that shoot bullets. But I could see both existing. It's not like like the stun guns that police use these days, tasers, were 100 replacing bullet guns. If anything, stun guns were sold on a lie that they were like 100% safe, and then eventually it was proven that real world stun guns are not safe.
I lost the drone.
And so you can just run into this safe house,
Downtown south and I'll explain.
and apparently that's where they can't see you. So what's special about these safe houses? Are they hacked in some way to be shielded? If that's the case, how did they find the lair? It's pretty obvious they needed a safe house in that location. A little odd that the whole map is reset. Probably isn't terrible to try for that. So the layer as a safe house does kind of just feel like it is no longer available. The basic kit is there, but the fast travel is missing. Plastics layer is still available. Eden Village is still available. Every time we come to this map, it moves us in a different direction. So you would just almost have to assume that this next part is going to be your following action from what was a very awful fighting section. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the last time we see those guys, or for a very long time. Maybe I just needed the switch places option, so I think I'm gonna take this. But you can see Sanctuary is the next main story, and that's when we can get more health, which obviously we need it. More health and more damage. And increased damage to the Sentinels being the only combat upgrade after this point does kind of highlight that we probably won't see any other further upgrades, which I kind of would appreciate that. That does feel bad. Although we complete Sanctuary and then we also start getting a Disruptor, and if the Disruptor makes everybody shake their head and stumble, then that ends any real need to fight people as often as you would think anyways. Got another achievement for purchasing half of face upgrades. So that also tells us to not to expect too much more. In this region, we're looking for 1 grid link, 2 surveillance recordings, 4 documents, 2 secret bags, and 7 electronic parts. I really have to question how you find all of that. It just definitely feels like a map is the only way you would be able to find all that. And I'm not sure you even need to find all of it. Like, because unless we get through Sanctuary and find out that there actually isn't that much storyline left, or that many more quests to do, and the dashes and the deliveries that I've been ignoring don't give enough experience. Like, ooh, so that one literally, so these cameras now do catch you and send the bad guys towards you. Cooldown, stay out of sight. So there is this whole cooldown system now. Now this may very well just be a temporary thing, and by the time we finish Sanctuary as the main story, we may be fine. You can see the game even saved after the cooldown ended. Been all over this area, or areas like this.
You, over here.
So it could be a real extra challenge to do this delivery. I hope I jump this direction, because if not, I have a
This needs to
struggle.
stay covert, all right? Get there and deliver without being seen. We're counting on you.
See, and he has like a face mask over him, and you see the face mask moving when he talks. So they clearly animated everything else. I'm going the wrong direction, though. Absolute wrong direction, so we might as well just look around and see if there's any collectibles. What's funny is it said if you held X, it would reset the dashes, but apparently that's not the case as far as the delivery. Alright.
Failed. The package is worthless. Abort mission.
So now this delivery is a different kind of delivery. It's not about following, it's about avoiding the cameras.
This needs to stay
We are
covert.
like halfway through this game. It's very late to be introduced to that concept of avoid being seen. Game really wants me to go up and in a different direction. I guess we'll follow the runners. But it doesn't seem like you can't be seen by the camera at all, which would be very difficult. It just seems like you have to move
This needs to
fairly
stay
fast
covert, all
enough.
right? Get there and deliver without being seen. We're counting on you.
Alright. So they want you to go this way.
Don't let them spot you.
Let's see. and hitting a bad jump even
Don't let them spot you.
is probably enough to waste enough time. I don't know where I'm supposed to be going.
Failed. The package is worthless. Abort mission.
Every single one of these runs, though, is like this, where there needed to be
This needs to
a
stay
camera
covered, all right? Get there and
that
deliver
flew
without being
by
seen.
and showed you
Counting on you.
your final location, or at the very least
Don't let them spot you.
something that was an echo the whole time. And you have to assume that in the process of testing this game, assuming it was tested
Don't let them
at
spot you.
all, they would have been able to make a echo where you could just follow somebody instead of just following the red pattern, which is not enough. Where am I supposed to be going?
Failed. The package is worthless. Abort mission.
And
Don't let them spot you.
the game is getting harder, not easier, with just random spawns of enemies now.
This needs
It
to
feels
stay
like
covert, all
even
right?
though I'm
Get there and
resetting
deliver without being
the
seen.
quest,
Counting on you.
I am actually not resetting the world
Don't let them spot you.
in completeness, and so more Kruger Sect are getting called every time I'm getting spotted. I have to just assume what. See, now there isn't any Kruger Sect here, so it does seem somewhat randomized more than it should be.
Don't let them spot you.
Alright. So.
Failed. The package is worthless. Abort mission.
At least now I've actually figured out where I'm supposed to be going. Now it's just a matter of cutting down every single mistake.
Needs to stay covert, all right? Get there and deliver without being seen. We're counting on you.
Yeah, this definitely feels like this is not timed in such a way that
Spot you.
you're really given a few extra seconds. Like, and having seen some speedrunners play this game before, I can probably point out that I do know that climbing pipes is about the slowest way to try to accomplish anything. Yep. Yeah, there's no way you're gonna save from that. Like, that's not happening.
Failed. The package is worthless. Abort
So
mission.
I just got completely screwed by a random placement of a random group of Kruger Sec, which once again goes back to the idea of not doing any of these quests until the game is over.
All right? Get there and deliver without being seen. We're counting on you.
So you run this way, you jump. You run this way,
Don't let them spot you.
and then you have to jump, and I did an extra jump. So unless there's an alternate path this way that can be taken, I don't think so. Like, anything that's going to require you to climb up this much is almost certainly wrong. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you are going to have to go over this bridge, more than likely. And you're going to have to...
Package is worthless. Abort mission.
Yeah, you can't have a challenge that is based off random luck as far as whether enemies spawn or not, and is also based off of doing absolute perfect moves and plotting absolute perfect moves. Like, it just can't work that way. It's not really fair. It feels like every little jump you do is not the right move. And I'm right on the 0 second there.
Rebecca will be happy. Or not happy, but you know what I mean.
What's interesting is I guess this is just Black November. So I'm now doing quests for Black November apparently. And that one quest definitely helped us. So do we want... We already had climb efficiency, so there's no improvement there. Well, you clearly want focus shield. Double wall run at some point, but... Yeah, if we could get our focus shield to the max, we're gonna probably have to cheese using that more often. Alright. Seriously? That's the path you think I have to take to get to there? What? Are you joking? What? Might be the path. Might be the only way to get to that. They may have created it in such a weird way that there isn't another option. Hmm. 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 Okay. What's funny is there is a thing there. So if I could hold the... If I could hold the right bump and use my grapple and catch myself, probably would physically rip off my arm, but there must be a lower way. Must be some lower way, unless at some point in the game you can start riding these, which it wouldn't be a terrible thought, frankly, if you did have the ability to grapple. Yeah. Is there ever a point where we actually get inside of these? Alright. Stop falling to my death. It's probably not worth it to do any of this. Really. I should probably just opt for moving on the sanctuary and moving the story forward. Yeah, I have no idea how you would get inside the building to reach that location. It does seem like it is just either impossible or very cryptic. So instead of looking for this hackable billboard, we should just fast travel. go to this grid node downtown. Again, I may be pointing myself in the absolute wrong position. Interesting. Have I been in this area before? Probably. Is this a safer way to go? Yeah. It's a different experience. Definitely, though, having just like every camera in the world being a danger to you versus just having people chase you. Like, it does all of a sudden do an even better job than the original game did as far as encouraging the player to have to always run and always move. And they teased it a little bit at the beginning of the game, but it's been definitely long enough that most players would have forgotten that you had to hack yourself off the grid. This does give you definitely a taste of what life is probably like for any regular citizen that decides to do something the people don't like. Kruger Sect doesn't like is that you would constantly be in fear of being immediately arrested. Okay. Does feel like the grid node downtown quest is going to be a fairly safe quest. Also, I can see over there's more than likely a circuit we haven't collected. Yep, it's nighttime again, and it would almost make more sense storyline wise if it was only at nighttime that things got more dangerous or that the security cameras worked. It almost makes sense to have a full story mission that required you to hack the cameras and make them so that they're blinded during the day, and that's why people wouldn't be finding you and chasing after you as much. The number one bad situation that would happen here, certainly though, is if we beat the full game and instead of it being a peaceful mode or being an option to at least have peaceful mode, it is actually the highest amount of security as possible, and cameras are always detecting you and you just are always getting frustrated by something like that. That wouldn't make a lot of sense to have the post-game world in the highest GTA stars level state, because then there would be nobody that would really want to deal with the hassle to make their own beat LEs and their own dashes and share it with their friends. I'm a little bit confused as far as these mission-oriented surveillance records and documents and secret bags. I guess the indication is that they can only be collected in the mission, so you probably would need a map to get everything collected anyways. Unless they're in side missions, and even then you'd still need some kind of walkthrough to tell you which side missions. And as far as runs, I guess now we've done 3 of them, which is something, but not a lot. We're still not getting a ton of documents or recordings. It seems like it's probably a 1-to-1 ratio. For every document you find in the overworld, you get Um, you get one other document piece of story unlocked in the menu. We do have several different echoes, which really don't matter. Select a different one, but because you're just never going to see your echo. And any other customization stuff as far as your appearance or your hacker sign when you hack billboards, all of that is locked behind going to Origin and dealing with it outside of the actual game. Here you have a big hole in the ground. I guess there could be big holes or underground sections anywhere. You half expect that to be what's going to happen, at least at some point, is that you would go underground. Now would be the time, storyline wise, to have you actually go underground and be in these like sewer shortcut tunnels that are dangerous, but safer than being on the rooftops. You almost, storyline wise, it would make sense that you start off high on in the sky, like in Cloud 9 with your heads in the clouds, and then reality comes crashing down, and at that point you have to actually come crashing down into the sewers, and that would be the low point of the story, like storyline wise. Apparently we are only 53% done with the story if we look at this profile. Interesting. And we're only 22% done with the world, and I have no idea what division even means. And I have no idea why I would be in Division 1, other than maybe I'm just not playing online. So, yeah, this gives you full numbers, really, as far as all the collectibles. If you check the profile, and I didn't realize you could do that, this is very helpful, actually. So getting 3 more security hubs seems to do nothing. Getting 3 more grid nodes lets you fast travel and nothing else. As far as opportunity missions, there seems to be 4 of them, 40 of them, and I've only done 5, which definitely makes it feel like I've maybe missed a bunch or would have to struggle to find them. As far as billboards, we've hacked 2 of 12. Grid leaks, we've done 104 of 324. Surveillance recordings, we've done 10 of 45. Documents, we've done 11 of 42. Secret bags, we've done 4 of 40. Electric parts, we've done 79 of 251. That's a lot of collectibles. And I bet if you added all the collectibles up, you would get something just around 250, which was probably required as part of their negotiation with their publisher, or as part of the negotiation for funding, is that they would have 250 as a nice round number of collectibles. Let's see. Times like this probably won't matter to most players, but knowing specifically that Benefactor had 4 collectibles I missed does tell me something of interest. It may very well be a case that we have to go back into certain story missions to just reveal more on the map. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there are collectibles or dashes or challenges that you just cannot do unless you're in a specific mission. But yeah, it would also be fairly crazy to start trying to do everything on this map right now, or try to clear off everything on the map before moving to the main story forward. I'm definitely not regretting my decision as far as how I've been playing this game. Although I would say I'm probably regretting how long it's taking. We spent a lot of time today being frustrated with that boss fight. I wouldn't be surprised if there's only 2 more fights in the entire game, considering how we've had maybe 3 or 4 in total that were storyline related up until this point. Then there's been a couple others that you've had to get into fights, and a couple other places where I've chosen to get into fights, but that seems to be about it. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.